Call to order the 942nd meeting of the Directors of MSAD 27. Any adjustments to the agenda?
No adjustments.
Do we have anybody signed up to speak? Do you have a sign-up sheet?
We did, I believe. Nobody signed up? All right.
Approval of minutes? Oh wait, we should do
I'm missing a roll call.
you're missing a roll call. Let's do a roll call then.
Christine Thibodeau.
Here.
Shannon Lugden. Kate Lubasser. David Susi.
Yep.
Tanya Gozin.
Here.
Toby Jandro.
Here?
Rosemary Collins.
Here.
Quinn Michaud.
Here.
And Maddie Morning.
Great. Approval of minutes. I'll accept a motion to approve the meetings of meeting 941.
I will make the motion to approve the minutes. Second.
Thank you, Rory. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Approval of financial statements.
I'll make a motion to approve the financial statement for January 2025. I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Now we have a presentation, I believe.
Yes, so I've updated the board a couple of times on the work that we've partnered with Allagash Wilderness Waterway Foundation and their youth on the Allagash program. I have Tom Gerard, who's here from the foundation. I also have Executive Director Dan Dinsmore, who is here via Zoom. Dan, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear. Dan and Tom are here, and they're going to update you on our progress, and you did receive some information in your packet as well. So I'll turn it over to Dan and Tom.
All right. Thank you, guys. I'm glad to join you via Zoom. Good evening, Superintendent Searwalk, members of the Fort Kent School Board Committee. My name is Daniel Dinsmore, and I'm the Executive Director of the Allagash Wilderness Waterway Foundation. I'm joined today by Tom Gerard, a longtime board member of AWWF, and I can see Tom's head in the background, so I know Tom is actually in the room. So I see Tom right there. Yep, on my camera I can see Tom. For those of you who are unfamiliar with AWWF, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to preserving, protecting, and promoting the unique wilderness character of the Allagash Wilderness Waterway. We work to ensure that future generations have the opportunity to experience this treasured resource, and we believe that one of the most powerful ways to do this is through education. That brings me to why we're here this evening. We're excited to present a unique and impactful opportunity for Fort Kent 8th grade students, a district-wide Youth on the Allagash exploration plan for the 1st June of 2020. A typical school trip. It's a carefully designed multi-day wilderness expedition on the Allagash River aimed at providing an immersive educational experience. We're proposing to bring all 8th grade students from Fort Kent and the other Valley Unified School Districts into the heart of Maine's wilderness. Here's what that entails. Wilderness skills and navigation. Students will learn paddling techniques, campsite setup, fire building, and how to read maps. Outdoor leadership and teamwork. 8th graders will develop problem solving, communication, and decision-making skills while working as a team to navigate the river. Ecological studies, students will directly engage with the Allagash's terrific ecosystem, learning about its diverse flora, fauna, and geological features. They'll gain firsthand knowledge of ecological principles and the importance of conservation. They'll have to observe wildlife. Participants will explore the ecosystem of the Allagash, identifying plants and animals such as moose, loons, and bald eagles. They'll learn no-trace ethics. They'll learn about sustainable camping principles to minimize environmental impact and preserve the wilderness for future generations. They'll learn about the cultural and historical significance of the Allagash. They'll learn about the indigenous history of the region, logging traditions, and the role of the Allagash and the state's conservation efforts. They'll learn about career perspectives. They'll learn about possible careers as a park ranger, in guiding, ecology, fisheries biology, and the forest industry. To ensure the highest quality and safety standards, we're proud to partner with Chewonki, a renowned leader in environmental education and wilderness expeditions. Chewonki's expertise will be integral to the program's success. What Chewonki brings to the table is experienced outdoor educators that work alongside AWWF, providing instruction in canoeing, camping, and wilderness skills. Their deep understanding of Maine's ecology and their commitment to experiential learning will enhance the educational value of this expedition. And Chewonki's established safety protocols and their extensive experience in leading wilderness trips will provide an added layer of security for your students. This partnership means that your students will be learning from some of the best outdoor educators in the New England region. By combining AWWF's dedication to the Allagash with Chewonki's expertise in environmental education, we are creating a truly exceptional educational program. To be clear, this program is designed to meet Maine learning results, providing valuable educational outcomes, and importantly, AWWF will be responsible for funding this pilot project. We do, however, welcome opportunities to collaborate around fundraising locally in the Fort Kent region. In conclusion, we will provide the following if you guys approve this trip. Experienced guides, teachers, and chaperones to ensure student safety on this trip. A comprehensive curriculum that integrates science, social studies, language arts, and physical education. Stringent safety protocols and risk management plans. Post-trip evaluation so the board can see the program's impact. We believe this experience will lead to enhanced academic engagement and improved student performance, the development of critical life skills, increased environmental awareness, cultivating the next generation of Allagash stewards, and promoting the Fort Kent School District as a leader in innovative education. We're confident that students will return to the classroom with renewed focus and confidence. We respectfully request your support and partnership. We're eager to collaborate with you to make this experience a reality. And Tom and I are here to answer any questions that you may have.
So just to be clear, this is, we're a year out. So the pilot year would be June of 2026, not this current June. And the pilot year is simply that, to try it out. Our administration preferred a fall trip. So beyond the pilot year, the goal is to have the following trips fall in September, one of the first 2 weeks before potato harvest, which is ideally what would work. But this June pilot does work for our staff, our administrators, and they gave their support for it as well. Tom, do you want to add any?
Basically, the reason that we're doing it in 2 separate years, we could not get Chewonki for next year. They did not have the resources, so and it wouldn't work without them, because what happens is they take care of all the training and everything, so your staff doesn't get involved at all in this, so there's no impact on your food. It's actually modeled after your 7th grade the bully trip. When we were looking at getting every child in Valley on the river, I always looked at your program that you had, that you took the kids to the bully, and I said, here's a model that Fort Kent already employs that's been successful for almost 30 years now. And talking to the staff here and going through it, we came to the point, well, let's do this. And we're more ambitious than they are, and they're more realistic, actually. And I know that because I taught school for 50 years, and I know what we're dealing with. So when you're looking at something like this, like sending, how many 8th graders do you have in there typically?
Around 60.
Sending 60 kids on the river, that's 120 parents that are impacted, that are going to go. My baby's going on the river for 3 days with who? And I know from feedback that sometimes at the bully, you had to bring kids back that melted down while they're out there. So it's designed to be comfortable for them. It's not a major trip. It's probably going to be from You know, if you spread it out on the river, just, 3 days, 2 nights is probably what we get down to with 1 day of field work here in the village before they would go out on the river so they're comfortable. Parents get a chance to answer all kinds of questions and witness what's happening and go from there. And to understand that there's only 10 kids with 2 guides in one group. So it's not like we have 80, 60 kids all playing bumper canoes on the river. They're spread out all over the place, so, there's zero impact.
Different campsites, different.
Campsites, different guides, doing it all together.
Do you need board action?
We would love board action.
I'll move that the board formally approve the program.
Is there a cost to the district?
Dan, is there a cost to the district?
Not for the pilot program, no.
What are we looking at for future costs, though?
Future cost would be about $70,000 a year, but the foundation would really commit to most of, not all of that cost. We would love to work with you locally to fundraise, but we believe we have foundations and donors who will support this program.
We currently are running a lot of programs up here. I don't know if you're aware of it, but we have canoe camp we run in Fort Kent through the rec department. Those are actually my canoes that I bring up so that the kids can spend a week on the waterway. We've been sending kids on the river for 7, 8 years now. It's over 300 kids that have gone on the river. And we have a 5-day trip with Dave Conley with Community Wild, where kids from St. John Valley have been going on the river. So this is not something brand new. Our goal has always been to get everybody, but with doing it piecemeal, you can't do it. And we tried in the summer, and people, you get soccer camps, you've got family trips. So doing it during school gives you an opportunity to have them captive, basically. So that's the big part of it. So we know the program works. It's just the scale up is, it's big. It's big.
Also falls right in line with our strategic plan priorities. Get kids outside, experimental learning, and that type of thing.
And the other thing that's going on, we have a lot of resources that we've already given to school. I just brought some in tonight. They've done, there's a lot of booklets that are being distributed, and there's a new one coming out on environmental impact, and all the kids will get that, and we'll have it to use in the programming with the teachers. It's all stuff that will work. It's good.
Yeah, from a mission standpoint, this program is really paramount to what we do, and really raising that next generation of stewards who will protect and focus on the Allagash. We can't imagine a better location to kind of run this project and this program out of than Fort Kent and the Valley Unified School District. So this is essential to what we do, and we would love to work with you guys to make sure that this is a program that is sustainable long term.
This is something we have special here. It's a little bit like, and the kids don't often have a chance to take advantage of it. It's a little bit like living in Hollywood and never having been to the movies. So we have an organization saying, we'll take your kids down safely in a guided trip to introduce you to what you already have. It's a wonderful opportunity.
I'll second your.
Thank you, Rory. Any other discussion?
I just want to add that, because this is staffed and Chewonki is taking the lead, it takes the edge off of our staff, who are going to remain behind and, serve the students that ultimately can't go on this trip, because we know that ultimately some students will not be able to go or may not choose to go based on their parent preference. Our teachers are still going to be here to be for them.
If teachers want to go, will they be?
Teachers who want to go will have an
Okay.
opportunity. I've been on the waterway several times, and it's amazing. I encourage everyone to do it at some point.
We do run another program, and it's actually for teachers and administrators. And we call it Total Teachers on the Allagash Learning, and we go to jailbird camps. And we offer that in the fall. It's 2 days, it's an overnighter. and we bring them out there to show what the kids are doing, and we have the rangers meet us at jailbird camps and guide us down the river and point out certain things to the staff, so it's a good opportunity to do it. So it's another portion of this whole program.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Passes.
Now, do you have to get approval by the other boards too, or?
We already have approval for Madawaska, and now your approval, so 33 is next week.
Thank you very much.
Dan and Tom will present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan, thank you very much. Tom, thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
All right. Superintendent.
Under Superintendent, the first thing I have is I would like to invite Mr. Peter Karen to update the board on the Recovery High School update. You've had some information about the Recovery High School. I've given you the project synopsis for a reminder. But specific to funding, I think it's important that the board understands where things are and how we're hopeful things will go. Mr. Karen?
Thank you.
No.
So, back in October, we submitted a grant application to the Maine Recovery Council for 2 years of funding, years 1 and 2 of what we hope will be a 3-year pilot. We scored a 94, which is 10 points higher than the average score received on the grants, 10 points higher than some of the projects that were funded. However, youth recovery was not among the most immediate and pressing priorities that the Recovery Council was trying to address in their first release of funding. So we were advised that our grant would be immediately rolled into the second round of applications, which was gratifying to hear. But we did in December go to Augusta to address the Recovery Council at their public hearing and just advise them that we are working in partnership with the University of Maine at Fort Kent. They have dedicated 3 areas of campus for use by our Recovery High School. That includes a floor of the Powell Residence Hall where students would stay during the school week. And it also includes the Hensler House, which would be used as a classroom and treatment facility. And it includes the old faculty dining hall in Nowland Hall, which would be our self-contained dining area for our students and staff, three meals a day, 5 days a week. The council, one council member asked that our project be reconsidered in January, and it did come up in January with 5 minutes left in the meeting agenda, not enough time to discuss it. They deferred action till February, and they said what they needed was a provision or a procedure for emergency funding, and so one was developed. It was not satisfactory. Again, the matter came up late in the agenda, not enough time to discuss it. So basically, we had said we needed to know in January. We agreed, the university agreed, we could wait till February for a decision. We got no decision in February. So what the university has said is if in March the council votes favorably to fund the project in 26, 27, and 27, 28, they will hold the spaces on campus 1 additional year for 25, 26. So we are not going to be able to successfully recruit the staff that we need. We have to look at both highly qualified educators and people with lived or living experience, with substance use disorder, with recovery, with co-occurring disorders. That's a very special blend of people, and we want to be able to conduct a good, thorough search. This is going to be the first of its kind project in Maine. It will be the first of its kind recovery high school in the United States. No other recovery high schools in the U.S. have a school week in residence component. But in Maine, in a rural state like ours, that's a critical piece of the model. So we have lately requested that the council consider funding
for 26, 27, 27, 28. And we will continue to work with the Attorney General's office to see if we can get a third year of funding through his office and the funds that he has available, so that we can in fact run a 3-year pilot. But it will not be up and running in 25, 26. We're all very disappointed about that, but we're excited at the prospect of being able to move ahead with recruitment of staffing and discussions with students, area school administrators, including superintendents from across Aroostook County, to let them know that this opportunity is coming. The main monitor has been basically sitting in via Zoom on the meetings, and they've done an article that was released today. It was picked up by the Bangor Daily News, it was picked up by WLBZ TV News in Bangor, and Maine Public Radio requested information about the project from us today. So we are beginning to see a groundswell of interest, which hopefully will translate into support. And Representative Lucian Daigle has also submitted a bill for the Recovery High School project. He is not sure if it will be heard in the 132nd legislature, but he is committed to bringing it to the floor as soon as he possibly can. So he's invested in the project as well. We're gratified about that. We're not going to stop working. It's an important project, and we need to make it happen. So that's where we are with the Recovery High School district. Any questions?
Peter and I discussed, when the funding decision didn't come in January, all right, let's look at February. When it didn't happen in February, we would just be rushing it. We'd be rushing it, and we wouldn't be doing it justice. And we want to do this right. We want to do it the correct way. So deferring to 2026, 27 is, in my opinion, the right thing to do.
We can't even technically advertise anticipated openings because we're very uncertain about the funding. So I think that would be a very slippery slope for us to be on, to post anticipated openings, not knowing if we could follow through. It's just, the school year goes fast from this point on, and we need the time to do it right, because a lot of eyes will be on us. This is intended to be a pilot project, and we need to have the staff in place that can help us succeed with the students, first and foremost in terms of their recovery, but also academically.
Peter will be presenting to the Aroostook County Superintendents Association in April to let those superintendents know that hopefully by then we have approval, but even if we don't, that we are planning on this, and that way they are aware, looking at their student population, if we have seats available, that we would take students from around Aroostook County to fill those seats.
The council's next meeting on March 13th, so the item will be on the top of the agenda. So hopefully there'll be enough time for discussion and for a decision to be made. And the council is aware that in order to hold the spaces at the university, we need a funding decision by March 13th.
Fingers crossed.
Pardon?
Fingers crossed.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Peter.
Peter.
Wanted to update you on our 6th grade relocation plan. The 6th grade transition stakeholders planning committee met last Wednesday, February 26th, and we looked over the 6th grade move survey results. I provided you electronically the agenda for that meeting, which had the survey results. It also had a summary of findings from those survey results. As we expected, a lot of support for the move, also concerns about things that we anticipated, especially things like not mixing middle school and high school students to the best of our ability, loss of recess play area, social emotional readiness, all those things that our guidance counselors have said, hey, that these are going to be considerations. So we knew that was going to be something that was on the minds of folks. But I can't say overwhelmingly a lot of support for moving 6th grade. A lot of folks see the benefit behind it and are hopeful that that will happen. The summary of findings, we're essentially just taking everything from the survey and giving us some recommendations of how to move forward and things to put in place. From those recommendations are things like for certain students that staff right now know are going to struggle with a transition because they struggle with transitions generally, creating individualized transition plans for those students so that maybe they can come here more frequently between a move and right now. We also, I don't know if you guys are aware, we do something called Link Crew in this building where when students transition from 8th grade to 9th grade, Link Crew is pairing up seniors with the incoming 9th graders, and they do activities for a day where they learn to create a network where they support one another. The company that does Link Crew also has a middle school transition program, and it's called WEB. So it's the middle school solution for what Link Crew does, and we are currently exploring bringing that program here as well, so that your 8th graders would partner with 6th graders incoming and provide them kind of like a big buddy type of thing where they have that transition support network. Maddie, you're a Link Crew leader.
Yeah.
Can you just kind of give an update of what that is and what you have to do?
Yeah, so basically they come in like a couple days before school starts, and you just do a bunch of like team building activities, and then you show them around the school, and they get to meet their freshman teachers that day in the afternoon, and then you just check in on them throughout the year and see how they're doing, and when you see them in the hall you say hi and check in, and yeah.
Thank you. So we would bring a similar program to middle school for transitioning our 6th graders. The committee was in complete consensus to recommend to you, the board, that the move is supported. However, there was some pause to have this board approve that prior to having a parent meeting. So it is their recommendation to host a parent meeting, and we've tentatively set one for next Monday, the 10th at 6 p.m. And we're going to host that meeting at the community high school gym. We're hopeful, and I know it's aspirational because we're only a week out, we're hopeful that we can call that a special board meeting, and then after we have presented to the parents, answer their questions, and you, board, are satisfied with how things went, you could move forward with either approving or not approving, just so our staff know where things stand. Each week that goes by, it's preventing any plans from happening, and I know this is the time of year where with budgets and scheduling and that type of thing, those big decisions really need to be made. So we're hopeful that at 6 p.m. Next Monday here in the gym, we can host that informational parent session, wrap it around as a special board meeting, and then hopefully get you to act or not act at that time. What thoughts do you have?
Has there been any discussion about, my mind's drawing a blank, of the combined classroom that they have that's for the
RISE?
As RISE.
We're talking about and I don't want to give too much information before we know who staffing is.
Okay.
But we're thinking about a solution that won't be like that, but may help with those parents that like that type of programming.
Okay.
So we're thinking about that.
Okay.
Yes.
So there was a lot of, I went through the surveys, and there was a lot of concern about space.
Yep.
Didn't make it, the summary doesn't really hit it, but it was a prominent concern among students,
Yep.
among parents, among people in the community. What's the plan?
I think the folks are seeing what we currently have for space and thinking, how are we going to make that work with 3 extra teachers, which it wouldn't. I don't know that folks understand that there's a 4-piece plan where continuing ed is moving out to create classroom space. We're creating classroom spaces by using larger spaces into smaller spaces. So I don't think people understand that. The students are concerned about losing their senior room. We have a solution where they get to keep their senior room, just relocate it. So I think when people hear what we've thought about in terms of making sure that we reallocate space. For example, we currently have 2 special ed teachers at the high school level that have full-size classrooms, yet their caseloads are not full-size classroom caseloads. So reallocating those classrooms to regular classrooms and then creating smaller classrooms in the adult ed offices for special ed is part of that solution. I think once we have that all ironed out, which Mr. Doucette has been working well on, as well as the other team members for what's going to happen at Chippy, I think it all falls into place.
And I assume we're gonna have, like, when we have our meeting, that'll be laid out to us with some detail.
And we'll actually invite those parents and attendants to come walk with us to go point out where things are going to be.
Good. Thank you.
Mr. Doucette, is there anything
You hit the nail on the head there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, Mr. Doucette's got it figured out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we do.
That was one of the biggest themes, space, but as well as some of those others, separating. And we've made some recent changes that we had to rethink about. We had some mixed phys ed classes, and we quickly ended that practice and went back to what we were supposed to do, which is not to mix middle school students with high school students. There are 2 periods a day where that has the potential to occur. Now either the gym divider is down, separating the groups, or one group is in the weight room doing weight room activities while the other is in the gym. We're not going to mix the student population. Because VRMS will essentially be taking most of upstairs over, right now it's not the case, so VRMS only has the farthest staircase. That's a VRMS only staircase. They will capture actually the second staircase as VRMS staircase. So middle school will have 2 staircases upstairs, and this staircase right here will be the only one that high school students can use, because there'll be a couple of classrooms still designated for high school at the end of the hallway here. So we're really trying to make sure that, with the exception of kids crossing paths to go to the office or to go to the nurse's station, we're really trying to make it so that middle school is essentially upstairs and high school is downstairs.
Now, refresh my memory, it's been a while since I've been upstairs. Bathroom situations up there?
Yeah, you have VRMS only bathrooms, and then at the end of the hall here, you have individual bathrooms that are identified for high school students, and then the downstairs is for high school only.
Okay.
VRMS has the nicest bathrooms, actually, the most modern.
There.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Luxurious. Okay.
Does next Monday look like most of you can?
I might be like
I'll-
6:15.
Yeah, I'll have Jackie reach out to you guys like she normally would, and see if we will have a quorum. And if not, maybe we can schedule one, later in the week, just to come here and talk about it and then take action.
Okay.
Thank you. French Acadian culture preservation continued. We discussed this last time. The Valley Unified Board of Directors met again on Monday, February 10. We had Patrick Lacroix and Lise Petier both in attendance. And we allowed them to provide for them to provide their thoughts and feelings about what the schools can do to move the needle on preserving the French language and the Acadian culture. Also, last week, Mr. Karen and I and Sharon Chassis, we had a video Zoom session with
Willie Labiat, who is the founder and head of school of the French American School in Tampa, Florida, and also the founder and head of school of l'École Française
in Freeport.
who spent an hour
On the side of the highway in his car.
in Boston,
in Boston.
on his phone, talking with us. He had just left the international consulate in Boston to talk about language and cultural exchange programs, and was headed back to Maine, where he'll be till April vacation. And he has invited us to come to the French School of Maine, which is located in South Freeport. It's a pre-K, which includes 3-year-olds through grade 6 school, run on a tuition basis, fully immersive, but he's familiar with programs out west that do partial immersion, and a variety of other models. So we just need to talk with him and see what they're doing, and then be able to come back to the 3 boards and the Unified Board and really discuss whether we can accomplish what we want to accomplish given the time spans that we've been talking about, which, based on our initial discussion, we won't. So we really have to look at some type of voluntary partial immersion program to accomplish what we hope to. And that can be certain subjects taught in French, and you can actually bring staff in from France on different kinds of exchange programs to team teach with staff and make that happen. There's actually a model at work in Louisiana, which was initially offered to the state of Maine years ago and refused by the state of Maine. So it's now at work in Louisiana. So we've got a whole lot of information that we need to get from Willie, and then meet with him and his staff in Freeport sometime in March.
The message that came from Willie, also from Monsieur Lacroix and from Ms. Detier, was the more you do early, the more chance you have at getting kids to develop an ear. And Willie explained it very well. You start with them listening to French and learning it, then you move to speaking, then you move to reading, then you move to writing. And he says, and you know, for some of our kids, they only start in middle school, and it's too late to start the listening and speaking, so they jump into the writing and reading, and it's never going to take shape. The more you can have your, and they recommend 2, 3, 4-year-olds listening to it. He, Willie, felt that you know, half the day might have an impact. Obviously, full immersion is ultimate. The school that they have in Freeport, Maine, is taught by mostly teachers from France, and it's 100% French. They have no technology in their school. They just teach French, and they teach all the subjects in French, and the students leave fully fluent, you know, in French. Obviously, we're a public school. We can't do that, but he's going to put us in contact with some public schools across the nation that do it, you know, partially, and see results from it. But early elementary is where you should be targeting, when their brains are ready to soak all that in. And he also shared multiple studies that he can, you know, point us to where taking out some English language instruction and inserting some French does not lower the English language scores. In fact, when you are getting kids bilingual, you're only fully developing the brain to improve well-rounded. So a lot to digest, a lot to go into. We're getting answers anyway, and I think that's, you know, more important. But we know that if we are going to make an impact and a serious investment, it's going to have to be at the lower elementary levels.
And Willie, not only is the head of the founder and head of schools for both the French American School in Tampa and the École Française du Maine, but he also serves as a consultant to other schools throughout the country regarding how to implement language and cultural instruction into their settings. So we're talking about someone with 30 years of experience. And, was very familiar, by the way, with the reverse immersion program in 33. He had come up very early in his career to examine me. And he says, isn't it funny that now I can come back and offer some, he's pretty excited about the prospect of working with us. So We'll be back with more information and some recommendations. It'll take a while, but we'll get there.
I just want to say, outdoor on the Allagash Wilderness Waterway for 8th graders for a week, Recovery High School, French language Acadian preservation. These are big things that we're talking about. And we're doing it all at once. So kudos to the team for, and kudos to the board for, backing us up in some of these larger initiatives. I think it's worthwhile, and I think, if we're going to move the needle on anything, and I appreciate, board members bringing some of these ideas to the table and having discussion with it. I think it's really important that, we're trying to shake things up as best we can. You also have administrator board reports from Mr. Doucette, Ms. Kelly, and Mr. Ricky Labby, and they are here if you have any questions.
Anybody have any questions for our administrators? Thank you all for the reports.
Yes, thank you.
Items of business.
Or
committee reports.
Yeah, so I totally forgot to send out invitations to the policy committee meeting that we had established last meeting. I apologize for that. So I would really like to set another one. I'm suggesting March 19, March 20, and March 25, and that would be Lori and Toby. Don't know what your availability is.
What was the date you said?
It's either March 19, March 20, or March 25.
25 is tentatively good for me.
Lori, that is a Tuesday.
I don't usually work on Tuesdays. So.
Does that work for you?
Okay, what time?
3:30.
On the 25th.
Fifth.
Yep.
Okay. I will send calendar invites. So we're gonna do that right now. All right, under items of business, we have no retirements, no resignations, no transfers. Yeah, we do have a transfer. You should have a transfer letter, transfer approval letter addressed to Angela Adams. Angela had requested to move from the cook helper position at FKES to the one here at CHS. And that would be effective on Friday, May 16, after the retirement of Linda Foster. After speaking with Melanie Legassi about the transfer request, we felt it was in everyone's best interest to approve it, so that transfer has been approved. For new hires, you have a recommendation letter from Ms. Jill Kelly, and they are recommending Tanya Fitzpatrick for the Education Technician 3 one-on-one position at Fort Kent Elementary School. She has some experience at the Bangor School Department, where she served in that capacity.
I'll entertain a motion to approve Tanya Fitzpatrick for the Ed Tech 3 one-on-one position at KES. Thank you, Rory. Thank you, Dave. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
We currently have our Dean of Students opening, we have our Curriculum Coordinator opening, and we're still looking for an evening custodian. In your packet, you have the Valley Unified Shared Services for next school year, 25-26. Very slight changes to what we are proposing. We've eliminated the Director of Human Services position. We've hired a local HR person in our central office that's been working out fantastically. I couldn't ask for more help in that area. It's been a breath of fresh air to have Nicole on staff, so that really does meet our needs. The only other change, you also see the Director of Human Services striked out from Shared Central Office Services. And then the only other thing that we are examining is the bus rate software, which I've talked to you about, and we're trying to fold that under Valley Unified because the more buses you purchase for, the bigger savings you have. I've communicated with Joe Flagant, who is the superintendent in Holton, today, and they've started using bus rate. They started using in January, and Joe is going to find a date where me and Ricky and a couple of other folks from Madawaska and 33 can go to Holton, take a look at how the software works and see if it's going to meet our needs, and then bring a recommendation for us to start utilizing that software in the upcoming school year. So that's it for shared services, and because the Valley Unified Board needs approval from each of the sending boards, Toby and Shannon would need your approval so that they can support it at the Valley Unified table.
Any questions or concerns about shared services? I think the only thing, Ben, is how does that work with the bus ride software if we don't know what the cost is, we don't know what the rollout is, we don't know anything right now?
Right.
Okay, just making sure. If we don't
And-
include that in shared services until it exists, would that be the end of the world?
No, we're still gonna share it,
Yeah,
so yeah,
I mean, I just don't.
I'm straightening it out.
Ben, do we not have a curriculum coordinator now?
Sharon Chassis is retiring at the end of this year, so we need to replace her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, she was still there.
And we talked about the French integrator, which we're not really funding right now, right?
Right.
So I wanted to talk to this board about that. On the second page, the halftime French integrator. In the last Valley Unified meeting, we had Frenchville and Madawaska have done a much better job of getting that into the lower grades than we have. We've come up embarrassingly short in SAD 27. And it's in part because we're trying to share people and it never worked out. I don't think anybody did anything wrong, it just didn't work out. So it's still in here as a shared thing, but I just want to let you know effectively we're not doing it. So I think as we go forward.
We used to. We used to do it.
Yeah, it's
We
not.
used to do it. Jill, were you principal in Wallagrass when we did the announcements for lunch were in French and English, and in every classroom, that's how I learned some French.
Yeah.
And the days of the week and the months of the year, and, you know, introducing themselves to each other. And it was, I mean, and I was not a French speaker, but, you know, the classroom teachers, it's not, it wasn't a big imposition at all. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I
It's
think
important.
historically, it's been a culturally loaded thing, right? I mean, my parents grew up getting punished for speaking French. Wasn't spoken in my school at St. Francis, despite the fact that 90% of the population in St. Francis spoke French. It was only something you talked to your grandparents about when you went to school. You spoke English. So I think we have a lot of kind of a cultural psychology thing here, where I think it's harder in Fort Kent to get behind it, and I think it's important. I think what Peter presented is helpful, and I mean, we can keep this in here, but I just want to let you all know we're not. It's not actually happening.
Nor will it ever be effective. So that's
No.
one thing we asked Willie. You know, if we can offer kids 30 minutes of instruction every other day, or he said, you're always going to be learning the colors and the shapes, but you're never going to learn the language. You're never going to develop the hearing for it, and you'll never subsequently learn the tongue for it.
And we were actually talking to David.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and he just said, given what you want to accomplish, it won't happen under those circumstances. So we're going to have to take a much deeper look and probably offer some options.
You're also going to have, and I have to say, you're going to have a population that's going to push back against against that notion of, you know, having to learn a foreign language, and that's just a reality.
Mm-hmm.
So I almost wonder if the path forward is making it an optional program like Madawaska did years ago, where, you know, a cohort has a partial immersion program, and you're investing, you know, into that group.
Were you a graduate of that program, Ben?
I was actually a teacher of that program, my first 3 years of teaching.
Was it effective, in your opinion?
It was effective until the end, when it was clear that because the funding was going to dry out, that the buy-in was less, and so what was supposed to be taught 80% of the day in French became more like 30% of the day. So I think the early years, it was highly effective. We were passing some kids through that were really fluent by 5th, 6th grade.
I think we have a lot of experience in this area in dealing with what doesn't work in French. I know when I came through the high school, we had 4 years of French being taught. And in my cohort of high school graduates, there's a whole bunch of people that can read Balzac and can't speak French. It's kind of weird. But it's just the program was designed to teach an acquired French that helped you to do well on the advanced placement stuff. And that's the way it was done then, and I think probably still done that way throughout most of the United States. But we actually live right on the border with a foreign country that speaks primarily French. And we can't communicate with them. It's really weird. We were 100% French community 75 years ago, and now we've lost our French. Fascinating problem. We could actually do some navel gazing about why we hate French so much, because there is a bit of that in us. Maybe it's an inferiority. Maybe it's because you get punished if you spoke it in the schoolyard, or so we forget.
Well,
And we did. We were discouraged.
well, and I think, go to Pleasant Street, and the church that's there with the people who owned all the businesses, they're not French. To be French was to be poor and to be a laborer. To be Anglo was to own the business. I think there's a reason why people changed their name from Levac to Bishop.
Yeah.
And the Varencoults became Smarts. Because if you wanted your kids to not be subjected to being a subclass, you would wash your hands of that culture, because that culture meant poverty, it meant working the field, it meant working in the woods. It didn't mean being part of the ownership class. I think there's a long history of trying to divorce ourselves from that. And I think it's something we need to talk about if we hope to bring this back. We have to be very open about the fact that it was a liability to be French. People renamed their children to get them out of here and to get them safe.
You know, there's hope though. When I look at the Violet Settlement, and what's going on in the development in the Violet Settlement, and now that's prime property, right? Tanya, I mean, that's prime
it's
property.
true.
When I was growing up, that was referred to as the concession violente.
Yeah.
And that's where poor people grew up, and then they came into school and everybody looked down on them because they had no idea the wonderful qualities and traits that those people had. And if we can reverse the way people view the Violet Settlement over the course of my lifetime, then I think we can have some impact on French language instruction and cultural retention in our region if we do it right. I really, and David's right, we have a lot of experience in how not to do it, right? So we need to really
Good intentions, excellent people. I think of my
Yes.
teachers, French, they were fantastic.
Yeah.
But the culture was kind of down on it. We can reverse that. I think it's very important to reverse that. But I'd have only one comment. make no little plans. You can waste a lot of time and money doing it half-baked.
Yeah, exactly.
And acquisition of a foreign language, in my mind, means you speak it. I don't care if you read it. You gotta be able to go to Edmundston and talk to somebody who doesn't want to speak to you in English. If you can do that, bingo, you've really won the battle.
Yep.
But that's not an easy thing. I say it's not easy. Our curricula for French language teaching don't teach that kind of thing. For instance, you're talking about French teachers from France. I mean, we got French teachers in Edmundston, for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
But we ought to be learning French that we use,
Yeah.
and we are uniquely situated to learn French, reacquire our cultural heritage, and really hit on all cylinders in cultural exchange with our cultural center, which happens to be just a mile away here. But to do that, you're going to have to plan big.
We already have a model right across the border, because those kids are fluent in English and French.
That's right.
That's because they're learning English and French in school every day.
Yeah, there was actually a discussion where administrators were asked, can you make all of the students fluently bilingual by high school graduation? And the response to them was, it's impossible. That statement was made even as every graduating class of Edmundston High School is bilingual. So, yeah, but it's hard. It's hard. And those of us who took French probably all say it was harder than physics and chemistry. So it doesn't have to be necessarily, but it's not something you
Well,
dally with.
and I think what's unique in our area is that our French is a lot different than textbook French.
Yeah.
And that was a big pushback.
Yep.
Like when I was learning it in schools, that you can read it one way, but when you speak to your meme and your pepe and your aunts and uncles, you're learning a completely different. Like I have aunts and uncles that live in Montreal, and they speak a completely different French than my mom and dad speak with me. So that's a big thing too. That's a big culture thing too.
It is.
A lot of experience with this in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I like that, conversational French, and integrating that with our cultural heritage, I think that's a winner. I really, really do.
Today, people learn French by working in the woods.
Yeah.
The most amazing thing, graduate from high school, get a job in the woods, didn't learn a bit of French, and after 3 years, everybody speaks French. So, what the heck? But it's very real, right? If you're gonna go ahead with the harvest, you have to learn how to talk to the guy who's driving the skidder, and so you actually learn it. It's not an abstract thing, but you learn it. You have to speak it to learn. I believe a good immersion program captures those elements, forces you to speak it, and you know what? In the end, it's fun. It's really fun. I shouldn't talk. I mean, my French is. I'm learning French because I have a grandchild that I'm very, very close to, and if I'm going to continue to communicate with them after 70 years, I'm going to have to learn French, and so I'm actually now learning French. It helps too that he doesn't laugh at me yet. But, so I think you set up those scenarios for students, and they will acquire it.
Yeah, so I guess the question back to where I was going was, because I think this is important, it's still on the list. I'd like to keep it there to keep us honest. I don't want to forget about this. I want us to move towards something better, so that we can remove this when we have something better to replace it. If that's okay with everybody.
That makes sense.
Can I ask, sorry, a clarifying question with the bus ride software?
Yeah.
It's my understanding that it's built on a student number,
No.
or number of students, or
Number of buses.
number of buses. So it would be easy to divide by district, but having it at the value level contracted would allow us to get better pricing. You wouldn't cost share it on the same basis as Valley Unified. We would cost share it based on
By bus?
On the bus. So you're still going to share the program, but it might allow us just to contract at a better rate than if we don't have the shared service. Same as what we do for curriculum coordinator or anything that is not divided on the same basis as Valley Unified.
If we, in that, I guess that's a question I had, and it wasn't very articulate. If we do not, because we don't know what that is,
That allows us to do it or not to do it.
It allows
Right.
Valley Unified to do it or not to do it. It does not
Right.
allow this board to do it or not to do it. And that's the thing, that's my concern, is I don't like the idea of Valley Unified
No,
making
contract.
unilateral decisions for these individual boards. I have no trouble if we agree to it knowing what we're getting ourselves into, but when we don't know what we're getting ourselves into. And the rest of the board can speak out on this. If you think I'm full of baloney, say it,
No.
but I just want to know, because I don't know. Is it possible under interlocal agreement, Ben, to add something to the list if we come to a conclusion?
Nothing that prevents it.
So I guess I would say that, Lucy, if we decide, if we get let's do the quote, is it from Valley Unified? And then let us come into it knowing what we're buying ourselves into, and then we'll bring it into Valley Unified. I don't think there's gonna be a problem with it, but I'm always a little weird to agree to something not knowing what it is.
That makes sense.
Thank you.
So we move to approve without the bus rate software?
Can I get a motion to approve the shared services with the exception of the bus rate software?
I will approve.
A motion for Tanya? Second from
second.
Christine? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Passes?
When's the next meeting for Valley Unified?
It is
Actually, email Jackie.
17th.
Okay.
So next week is 33 and then the week after.
Will we know then more about it? Or?
Probably not.
Okay.
I have a feeling we're not gonna get, this isn't gonna be this, before we do
Dave, we
budgets.
don't, are we supposed to go to?
I wouldn't expect it.
Valley
Yeah.
Unified
May or
meeting?
June, probably.
No.
Depends how fast we can move with Holton, but we'll see.
You guys got a lot on your plate.
Yeah.
I'm not I don't feel like this is a priority. Okay. Budget workshop, first read of the budget.
You have the packet in front of you. So again, this is a first read. It includes everything that we think we'll need at the moment. What we know today is what we know. There's a lot of moving parts in this year. Thank you very much. This represents my best guess on the grade 6 move, because the grade 6 move doesn't affect staffing mostly, but it does require some renovations to, like Ben referred, there's like moving parts to make room. That is included in this budget. It includes the removal of the daycare piece, and the ACAP, early childhood, third, 4-year-olds? 3-year-olds? So there's a lot of moving parts that are still in development, and so what I'm trying to bring to you is the worst-case scenario, so that you can see what would it cost if we put all of these parts in motion. So you have several pieces of paper in front of you. The one with the blue is your super summary. So that's your high-level look at the budget. You have 3 columns of numbers. Last year's budget, so this current year 24-25, you have the proposed 25-26 budget and the difference and the percent difference. And then the very right-hand side is comments on what, if there's an increase, what the major difference is causing the increase or causing the change. The expense portion of the budget, so this view is looking at a 6.6% increase over last year, which is a heck of a lot better than I've done in the past, than I've been able to do. I was actually surprised, and I came to Ben and I said, this doesn't make sense. But when I look at all the moving parts so far, this is what it looks like. The second sheet is the same information as there, but presented, so the blue one is in cost centers, so regular instruction, special education, transportation, facilities, and all the parts that belong with each cost center. The second sheet is all white. It's a summary sheet. It presents the same information, but it presents it in categories of expenses. So all your salaries are grouped together, all your salary benefits, your health insurance, your travel, your utilities, those kinds of expenses. So they're grouped by groups of expenses so that you can see, okay, what's the effect of all my salaries throughout my budget? Because the Department of Education forces me to build my budget with my salaries all spread out throughout my cost centers. But this summary sheet brings it, all your salaries together and all, so that we can take a look. So 78% of the budget is salaries and benefits. So that means that there's very little flexible or moving parts in the budget other than salaries and benefits. Initially, as I start every first read, I always start with an increase of an estimated increase for health insurance, and I'm estimating it at 10%, just so that we're aware that it could possibly be higher than that, because we got a fun little email today that is basically saying costs are higher than last year. Last year, SAD 27 had an 11-point-some% increase. So I left it at 10 for now. We should know by early April, so by second read, possibly third, what the true increase is going to be. The next two sheets, one has yellow and blue. So whatever is blue in the first sheet matches what's blue on this one pager that's double-sided. So it's just a little deeper dive into what makes up, it breaks down regular instruction into grade levels. So grades 3 to 8, grades K to 2, and this year they're asking me to separate pre-K. What you're seeing for pre-K may show that there was no budget last year and that an amount next year. There was a budget last year, it's just included in the K to 2 level. It's actually pre-K to 2. I just couldn't move last year's budget because it's frozen in my system. I can't move it because it's last year's, but the costs were already there. One of the moving parts is that the pre-K expansion grant will not exist next year. It's done at the end of this year. That's $66,000 of expenses that were covered last year in the grant. This year they're in the budget. That's one of the moving parts. ESSER funds as well. We had trickle ending of the COVID monies grants, and they were taking care of our summer programming or summer schools or vacation schools. The costs for that this year will be in the budget. I will leave these with you because there's no way to go through all the individual lines. And then the last one is stapled and it's got 8 sheets. It's diving down even more so that you can see the salaries, the health insurance, the salary defense in each little grouping that makes up the cost center. So it's categories of expense within the program, within the cost center that builds up the budget to the summary sheet. So that's the expense side of the budget. Again, it's looking like a, did I say 6.6%? My percentages don't match in both lines. Oh, wait a second here. No. Actually, my numbers don't match on either sheets. First read is not great, but I'll double check that. The summary. Yeah, I think I'm at the 6.6% increase.
And Lucy, just for clarification, the Department of Education requires you to report out this way, right?
It requires me to build my budget that way, yes. It gives me specific coding that I have to use for specific expenses. So I can't just use one code and say, this person's a teacher, I'm just gonna put it in this one teacher code. I have to separate pre-K teacher, K to 2 teacher, grades 3 to 8 teacher, high school teacher, alternative education teacher, special ed teacher, continuing education teacher. So I have to be very specific in what program they teach and what grade levels they teach. Same with the ed techs. And in addition to the ed techs, I have to separate between whether they're ed tech 1 and ed tech 2 and ed tech 3. Administrators, I have to code separately. I can't code them as teachers. Your custodians, your bus drivers, your school lunch, your coaches. Every line of salary has a very specific line to go. A substitute is coded separately from teachers. There's lines for stipends. So all of those separate, and I have to also identify as best we can how many supplies and where the supplies go. So the supplies, I can't just lump school supplies into one line. I have to separate school supplies for pre-K, K to 2, 3 to 8, high school, elementary school.
In addition to that, we also have to code by school. So it's not just the building, so I code things to Fort Kent Elementary, but in this building, I have to separate what's coded to Valley Rivers and the high school. In the eyes of the Department of Education, these are two schools, not just one, even though they're both in one building. So it makes for, the reports are not pretty, they're lengthy, and it'd be great if we could just have a 10-liner and say, hey, here we go, but unfortunately, they have to report to the feds, and it meets their reporting requirements as well.
Those codes are also tied into the Central Programs and Services funding, right?
Yeah. So that they can also look and pull out the information they need. When we report, we upload the information to the Department of Education quarterly, and then yearly as well. And they actually are able to pull from our reports the information they need. The long sheet with the green, the expense side of the budget is one side. The other side is where's the funding coming from and where's the revenue coming from. By law, I'm not allowed to present a budget that would not be fully covered, that we couldn't identify where the funds were going to come. Again, you have two columns of numbers. One is current year budget, 24-25, and where the revenues were identified, and the proposed for 25-26. The yellow is the last new numbers that I fill in. Those are once I've identified all the possible revenues, so your carry forward, your tuition from outstanding towns, your transportation from tuition students, any subsidies that we get through continuing education or the state funding, any reimbursements that we anticipate, those kinds of fundings. Once we have identified all our revenue sources, then the last line is how much funding do we need to get from the local towns and the assessments. So based on this first look and the budget that we have built to date for first read, again, this is our first read. We have not, as we tighten things up, we'll update the numbers. I'm looking like I would need an additional 466,000 from the local, which, based on the 3-year average of valuations, that would translate to a 0.19 of a mil increase. So that's the lowest that I've ever brought a first read. Again, it's just a first read. It's not what we would go to the towns with yet. As we get more information, I'll fill them in. But so if we were to bring this to a referendum today, the smallest increase would be a 4.9% increase to St. John Plantation, and the highest increase would be a 10.1% to Wallagrass. And the difference between that is because your valuations fluctuate from town to town, which generates a slightly different increase. But Fort Kent's increase would be about $339,000. New Canada would have an increase of $18,552. St. Francis would be $29,800. St. John Plantation under $14,000, and Wallagrass would be about $65,520. Historically, we have always been able to reduce slightly going to second and third read. That's always our intention anyways. We know that just because you can get it passed at a referendum doesn't mean that the towns can collect the taxes. We understand that. We are also taxpayers, and our goal is always to bring in the best budget we can that's affordable to all our taxpayers. We understand the economy is no fun right now, so we'll continue to keep trimming. Ultimately, we have kids to educate and to pick up and bring to school and return home at night. And feed.
Thank you, Lucy. Wow.
And you can hold on to these. Again, I will give you new ones when we go to second read.
Okay, so anything else before we go into executive session? Seeing nothing, we'll take a, let's say, 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session. Is that okay with everybody?